Hello and welcome to Home Delivery Plus. My name is Elisa Weilerstein, and this is a little breakdown of what it was like to learn Kodai's Solo Sonata for cello. This was written in 1915 and was really the first major work for solo cello since the Bach suites were written. So it's nearly 200 years that have passed since the creation of these incredible Bach suites. So you have this massive gap in between, and of course you couldn't really have something that's more contrasting in terms of scope, of technical scope for the cello, as well as just kind of emotional range. So we begin with the first movement, which is actually as kind of crazy and different as it is from anything that's come before it. It's actually the most conventional movement. The first thing you'll notice when I play it, when you hear the concert, is that the tuning is different. This is scordatura tuning. So you have the A and the D strings, which are normal, and then you have the C and the G strings, which are tuned down each a half step. So you have an F sharp and a B natural. This actually creates a really kind of different instrument. It's much more resonant. It's much deeper, of course. Of course, the pitches are lower, but it creates a kind of wider sound. And so there are many more expressive possibilities. And I really adore this opening because it's really like, here I am, and here I am to tell this really crazy ballad that's about to happen. So you start with these two chords. And then you launch into this really crazy tale. The next thing you'll notice, of course, is that there are plenty of extended techniques. So in the second movement, this is really where this comes into the fore. And I have my trusty iPad here with the score downloaded to get to this point, which is in the middle, which is actually toward the beginning, actually, of the second movement. You'll notice that even while I'm holding a drone, you have pizzicato, which is, of course, plucking. You have pizzicato in the left hand. So this, you just hear these little pizzes, but then he brings it, even as this passage goes on, you see it actually getting a bit more challenging for the player. So you get to hear. Sorry. So again, you hear. Now you have three strings, which you're plucking at the same time. So this is quite new, and it comes from folk tradition. So Kodai and Bartók were Hungarian contemporaries of one another. And Kodai famously went into the woods in rural Hungary and wrote down folk tunes and was inspired by the gypsy players. And so he incorporated so many of these wonderful extended techniques into kind of Western classical, Western traditional classical music. And so you hear this all throughout the Kodai Solo Sonata. So this was just one example which I played for you. When it gets really, really complicated is in the third movement, where the cello really kind of becomes a one-man band. And so one of the most interesting and kind of most fun and challenging to play bits of this, where you can really hear this extended technique at its kind of fever pitch, is in the middle of the last movement. And where I'm almost playing it, it's not quite a tremolo, but it's very, very fast notes that I'm playing in the bow and that I have to actually pluck with the left hand at the same time. So if I'm doing it right, you won't really kind of be able to tell where the sound is actually coming from. So let's start right about here. So then you come back to the return of the opening thing of the theme of this movement. So this is just a bit of a taste of how wild and wonderful this music is, and how inspired it is by folk tradition and, of course, marrying all of the wonderful elements of Western classical music. And it really shows also what was to come in terms of 20th century solo music for cello. And it's one of the most exciting, rewarding pieces to play and to listen to, and I'm so excited for you to experience it.